Good day, everybody. Little status on the progress. So we can see here that I'm in and around the car. This is a direct-to-metal seam sealer, two colors, because I ran out of the white and so I moved on to the tan. But hitting all of the welds, seams, all the plug welds, and just basically sealing it up. Then I hit it with a self-etching primer, and then I'm beginning the box lining. I wanted to get all this with a small brush on the inside, and I was able to. It is time consuming to get in there. It doesn't have to be pretty. I mean, it is box liner. I mean, by the time you're done, it's got a small texture to it, but for all practical purposes, it looks good. And I just wanted to assure that there was no exposed metal, so flat with a little flashlight and in my mouth and a brush, and you know. So I got that all the way around. I seam sealed all of these edges where the two parts came to, pieces of metal came together over all of the welds. There's all seam sealer on here. Then I came back and hit it with, this is just a self-etching primer. I've found it to be extremely durable. I used it on the chassis. And if you take Scotch-Brite and you scratch the surface, clean the surface, hit it with that stuff, it takes a lot. You can't, or I've not been able to scratch completely through it with my fingernail. You can see that blue tape line right there. That's where I'm trying to keep out of the textured, or the liner. And I painted all of that box black first, let it dry, and then I came back in and started all this and just finished this today. It's still wet. And so I will progress. So at this point, I primed up to here yesterday, and I came in and seam sealed all the way around the perimeter. Then I cleaned everything here today, primed, and seam sealed all this today. Everything that's not white anyway. White I did up through yesterday. So I've got a full cure on the seam sealer. I had a full cure on the primer and the paint on the backside. And now I'm pulling around the box liner. Oh man, I wish I remembered the name of this stuff. Herculiner. Hit this with primer. This will cure out. I think it's not that long of a time before this cures out. Hit it again with the Scotch-Brite. Clean the surface and prime it. Hopefully this afternoon, maybe I can come home from lunch and hit that with primer, and then try to jump on the. I think the primer is 4 hours, and the primer is. I always follow my can instructions. Dries to the touch in 10 minutes. Dries to handle in 15 to 35 at 70 degrees. Top coat after 30 minutes. So allow more time in cooler temperatures. Right now it's going to be about between 70 and 80 today. Yeah, good. I don't like to leave paint if I'm going to top coat without scarifying, without sanding. I like to hit the top coat right after it's flash time, or after it's cure time if it's single part, because you get a better bond. If I let it go till tomorrow, then I'll have to get on there with a Scotch-Brite. Usually use a red or a gray. Been using a red for all this metal. It's the first one I found. Anyway, so I'll rip that tape off there after a little bit after this box liner flashes over. There's instructions on that for taping off and how long to go, because you don't want it to flow into the, after you pull the tape off, you don't want it to flow in because it's a heavy body. And that's where I'm at. So I'm working my way up to here, and then I'll get this off and start on the front. And I got a project for the lift coming this weekend, which is in a couple of days. Well, actually tomorrow. We're putting a lift kit in a Toyota, an Epoxy lift kit. Right there. In a Toyota. And then after that, then the body will go back up on the frame with that plastic taped around it, and I'll sandblast the bottom, self-etch prime it, and get that done. So we're making some pretty good progress, and we're moving along. Not as quickly as possible because, of course, it's spring, right? Weather's getting warm, and I've got a lot of honeydews. Real quick, a new addition to the shop right here. I picked that up, and I picked that up. That saves cutoff wheels, and that is a significant complement to the lathe. So that's a 29 South Bend, 1929 South Bend lathe. I rebuilt it. Works beautifully. I cut threads on it. Well, you've seen some of the projects that I've done on it. That was my father's lathe. This I got at a guy who was closing up his shop, selling everything off. And it's a 3-phase, so I did buy a static phase converter. I ran my 240 over and converted it to 208, 240 3-phase. And it does work. They're not as good as the motorized ones, but they're dead quiet. And so I like that. My wife found a couple of these on a curbside. This is almost embarrassing for me, but you know what? When you find cabinets for the garage, but of course then my tooling for the lathe and the mill will go in there. And then she got another one. This was an end cabinet on the old 1970s where they put the shelves above the peninsulas. And this one's got an end cabinet, so I'll probably do a pocket for my air tools, get those out of there because I keep running into them. And then, you know, I can have a lube station and CV joint repair, that kind of stuff over here. So there we have it. Thanks for your time. Well, I got the first coat on. I let it cure all day yesterday and then last night, and I'd say it's probably pretty close to 9 o'clock, 8:30 last night. And I came in and I rolled all this out. So I do typically put a second coat on. Second coat gets the build. I mean, this is a little dirty, but it gets the build out to about like that. So, and you know, structurally it helps, but of course sound deadening and all the other benefits, the rust proofing, so on and so forth. Now there's primer underneath this, so it is moving along. I got the seams, you know, all dressed, if you want to call it that. And I'll have to let this cure out. This is a butyl EDPM. So elastomeric, poly, I don't remember. Anyway, it's coming along good. Almost ready to probably by Sunday, which today is Friday, but by Sunday I will have it up on the lift and taped off and ready to sandblast the bottom. Maybe even have the bottom sandblasted. And that I'll probably squirt with, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I still have some epoxy, and probably the exterior surface would be best by spraying it out with epoxy. So, and with an epoxy coat, of course, you can lay that down first. and then come back with your seam sealer. Jury's out. It isn't that. It's not the show side. This car is intended to be driven, you know, like everything else, though it'll be for sale. But it is intended to be driven, but I want to do it as high quality as I can. I kind of wrestle sometimes with, is this car ever going to get driven 300,000 miles again, like so many cars today are? And I, quite frankly, I don't know. You know, you build these things, and the one that I built a while back, that one would be, gee, me Christmas. I finished this, and it was a 4-door Tempest. That's that model, and I built it into a 2-door. And that one's had like, after me, that's had like 5 owners. You know, guys keep them for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. I sold that 2014 maybe, and so it's been 9 years. So guys driving 2 or 3 years divided by, it's on the, well, I'm be the first, so 4 owners passed me. So it's on its 5th owner, and that's what, a little over 2 years average per owner. Supposed to keep them a couple of seasons and then sell them. And out of that, 3 of the owners have contacted me, and I don't leave contact information, but there is a build book that went along with that car, and I got a better picture of it. There's a build book that went along with that car, and that it has reference to me and pictures of me and stuff like that in there. But there it is at a car show. And that was a pretty car. Good, really fun project. 61 Pontiac Tempest, and of course there's no chrome on it. It was all sanded down. These were all fiberglass. I made the plugs, the molds, the whole works for those grills, and French the tail lights, and a whole bunch. That was a 4-door car. I converted it to a 2-door. I see, you know, back then I was like, yeah, whoever does this, and now you see that's just a very, very common practice now. But anyway, I just don't have a lot of content today, but making progress on the 1930 Dodge. Thanks. All right, well, there we have it. We've got the entire interior side of the floor now first coated, and you can see, I think you can make that out where there's a kind of a heavy distribution of the ground rubber in the coating, and then some light areas. And there, you can see kind of a trail along here. And that's the first coat. You know, in the first coat I just used a low nap roller, and I stippled it in with a brush in all the corners so that I made sure I had 100% coverage. This is the original area that I didn't cut out, and you can see how dense and uniform that looks. And so looks aren't everything, but a good even distribution of that ground rubber is the final product that I'm looking for, because of a little better sound editing qualities, a little better build that it's going to create, and I don't want to make piles with it. I just want a distribution that it simulates a lot like a bed liner, but the whole point being that a bed liner, this product I've done quite a few trucks on, pickups, and I'll be the first to say, you can scrape it off if you drag a transmission or engine block with the corner of one of the corners of the block or the casting rubbing against the floor. You can cut through it. You can cut through any of them. In the plastic liners, you can leave a nice mar in it. They probably won't get all the way through because of the build thickness, but I've used this and with excellent results. I'm very happy with it. So again, get a second coat on, get a distribution that looks a lot like that, and you got enough density into the product that you can be comfortable with the fact that, number one, you're not going to get moisture penetration and all that, but that you're going to have the qualities of a thick build that's going to add structure to it, but deaden the sound, get the sheet metal noise, the droning out of the sheet metal. So this will be on the bottom side as well. But the next phase, of course, is to get the second coat on here to complete this project, get it up on the lift, and sandblast the bottom, epoxy prime. I think I'm almost completely settled on that. We're going to go with an epoxy primer on the bottom. It's durable, and then roll this out on the bottom. Fortunately, this is what's going up on the lift right now because we're sticking the lift kit in it, and that's the next project of which I may or may not get a couple of shots of. It kind of all depends. My son's in. This is his truck, and we're gonna do that today. So that's the phase of the project we're at with the 1930. Well, we can see that I've got it all rolled out now. Looks really good. Battery box and, I don't know, trunk, whatever you want to call it. And you'll see a bunch of 1/4-inch bolts with washers. Those washers are just big enough to cover, just barely cover, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 inch in diameter larger than the hole that they're going in. Those are all the body mounts and other related bolt holes. So at this point now, I'm getting ready to bag it out. Tape all the way around the perimeter. The only misses are going to be these where the pads, are touching the frame, and that's new steel. But I mean, I'll just have to hit those with the grinder. Touch them later because I've got to do everything from the bottom side here. I can't flip it over. I don't have a rotisserie. So at this point then, I got the sandblaster under him. I'll tape this bag all the way around the body and blast the bottom. Blast everything. Blast the oils off of the new metal. This will get taped up in here. Maybe along that line. Then I'll just blast everything out and come back and repeat the process on the bottom side. So I got an excellent build on that material, on the Herculiner. I got an excellent build, and this will have to get blasted. I actually ordered 3 more tubes that seam sealer. It won't be in until tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, which is okay. If I can get this blasted and then prepped, I can shoot it with the epoxy, because I'll basically have a spray booth, right? Shoot it with the epoxy and let him cure out, and then by tomorrow or the next day, then I can come in and seam seal it and focus on the bottom. So I anticipate within the next week or so, hopefully less, but you got cure times, to have this body done. Chassis moved over here. We've all seen that in earlier videos, and waiting for the marriage. Engine is at the machine shop, as you know. Cylinder heads are right here. I just have to finish porting the intake. I'll need to get those flanges cut. I'll need to get these flanges cut, but I have to CC the heads and get, and the burette is coming in within the next 2 days on the same order. Within the next 2 days so that I can do my CC. I've got my bore. They did finish the bore. And the line bore, the cylinder bore, were 60 over. It's going to be a 341. Now, just to clean it up. And it was because of the ridge gap, actually. Or the ridge shelf, you know, where the rings go all the way up to the cylinder and leave that groove. Well, in one cylinder, that rust penetration went too far. We could have left it, and I said, no, just clean it completely up. I can go to, so that's 60 over, that's 30 on the diameter. I could get out to 154. If I wanted to stay at 100 thousandths, I could have gone 54 thousandths, up to 54 thousandths on the diameter and still have a safe engine block. It's 54. What would that be? 108 on the diameter. 54 on the radius. Yeah, 108 on the diameter. 108 thou, which is just under 1/8 of an inch. So I could have opened it up to 3.93, right? But which would make it a 354, because that would be the bore of a 354 because it's an 1/8 inch over. But then there's no margin for error, and in my opinion, no margin for error for going, for having a failure, a ring break or something that would score the cylinders. So they're doing the engine. Let's see, that they're getting the engine prepped so that I can order the kit. I will order the kit. The kit will arrive whenever it does, but they're custom pistons, so that's going to be, a few weeks. Then when I get the pistons, I'll take the whole works back to the machine shop and get the connecting rods assembled to the pistons, get them peened, and get the connecting rod shot peened, get them assembled to the pistons, get the finish hone done for sizing, and I think I'm about there. I might have them install the cam bearings because I don't have a cam tool. I used to, but I can't find it. So I'll probably have them install the cam bearings, big deal, and then return the engine to me, and I'll start building that out. But then this will be ready to go, because now all the finish on this is body finish work, right? The interior wiring, the mounting, and then this will take my attention to completing the engine, getting the engine in and mounted, and then finalizing the intake manifold, building the intake manifold, and come on, Fred. And hooking up the computer control. So there'll be some design in that intake system, but I don't see it as a huge challenge. So there we are. There's the future plan, and this is the status. Again, I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank you for the comments, the compliments, and the critiques, because they have helped me all the way through this process. Have a great one. Got her all sandblasted out. Sandblasted it. I didn't get it to this level of white, because this is completely white. But blasted it out. I had done some seam sealing and cleaning in the past, and those are weld stitches there, but there is some seam sealer. I blasted a lot of it out of there. I'm gonna just redo the seam sealer. I want to catch every corner, but got it in all the pockets and sprayed into the joints. You know, if I, in some cases, if I sagged a little, you know, it didn't matter. Because the most important thing is to get it in there, right? And you can see some wet spots still because I just finished spraying. Factory floor, coming into the factory floor, this will be seam sealed around to the new panels. But you can see some of the pitting. There's a dent. Oops, no, I just pushed my fingernail into the epoxy. Here, and then this area here, that was the worst spot. Doggone it. That was the worst spot. But I'm gonna seam all along there. I got a stitch right there, but I'm gonna seam seal all around. That's an opening up on top of there, 3/4 of an inch down, all the way down. And then I'm going to build a piece that'll span this and cap it. And that, again, that's my wire chase. I got some grommets. My positive will go in here, and then anything else that I need to go into there. I'm thinking column shifter right now, but even if it's a floor shifter, I can certainly get in beside it. Maybe I'll make sure I run the positive on this side. Up into the front area. Again, seam seal everything all the way around. I'll probably get those corners there just so that I don't want to create a water pocket in there. And then this floor has, you can kind of see light up in there. That goes into the cabin. You know, after all the building, I knew the floor would go on here and all that, but that's kind of strange, but it goes up into the cabin, so that'll need to be sealed off at some point, whether it be with a weld-in piece or something different. Anyway, there she is. All in her glory. Next comes the liner. After this cures out, well, next comes the seam sealer and then the liner. So, happy with it. Really think the floor turned out good. So, next phase. Yay! Hi guys. So next work day, getting ready to go to work, but decided to just get a few odds and ends taken care of while things cure. You can see, you know, a couple of flat spots. My finger's going to be big right in this area, right in that area. And that's where my knee was. It didn't transfer to my knees, but I squished it a little bit, but it's cured. All the brown you see is from sandblasting, the dust coming in. But I mounted the battery box. That's all in now. It looks good. I mean, for what a battery box is supposed to look like. The battery box, I think, looks spectacular, but gives me the opportunity to start looking for the seat. But of course, it's, you know, like the very first interior thing for finish work, but it also allows me to drill the hole, locate and drill the holes and run the cabling through. I did drill a hole underneath, if you recall, right in this area for the channel, the wire channel that's going to go through. I drilled a hole for a grommet for the positive battery cable because it's going to run up the trans tunnel and then go over to the starter. But that'd probably be the next thing that I fab. I keep turning here, but that'd probably be the next thing that I fabricate is the cap that goes underneath there. After I get everything rolled out underneath, then I'll make a long cap. Maybe even use the box liner on the cap. I don't know, foam, maybe even. But I did sandblast the pan. These are the wire covers for the Hemi. Go on top of the valve covers. And then I got a coat of prime on them. I'm thinking I'm going to paint these copper. I like that look. And with like the red engine block and all that, and or the Hemi orange, I guess it's called, engine block, I think it'll accent it well. I blasted the valve, cleaned and blasted the valve covers. I just spritzed the gasket surface here, and I'll paint the gasket surface also. Why? Because, I don't know, they just seem to, shit sticks to them, and then they seem to corrode, but you can't prevent that. But I think I'd like to do that so I don't have any rust drips coming from underneath the valve covers. Blasted them off. The valve covers of this that came with this engine are these. They are in extremely good shape. So what I'm doing is basically priming them with a high fill primer, and then I'll hit them with a Scotch-Brite, but I do want a really nice surface when I'm done. I was considering powder coating, but I do like the look of that copper. So I'm going to go with that, and then I let it cure out really good, and then hit that Chrysler Firepower in red, or the color of the engine block, whatever. Maybe just red. I don't know. Hemi orange is something that I haven't sprayed for. Geez, I don't think I've ever sprayed Hemi orange. I don't remember. So I only know from pictures, but I'll have to get that paint. So not a whole lot to show, because there's a lot of, getting those screws in and all that was a pain in the butt. You had to get around get it cleaned up with the heavy bodied bed liner, in the holes and all that. So it took a little bit of time to get them in, but it's fully screwed down. I used they're all stainless steel screws, and they're a small number 10 flat washer with a number 10 lock washer underneath, and then just cinched down to the floor. So there you have it. That is today's progress so far today. Okay, just a quick one here. You can see I started on all the seam sealing. Not all of it, but I got quite a bit done. It's late. I want to go in the house. But all that square tubing is now sealed. Everywhere where I'm spot welded. Up in here. Up in here. There's a piece of rubber glove hanging right there. Can't believe I didn't see that. Same on the front. I did get everything in the trays. Both sides here. And there. Then I ran out, so I didn't get the interior side of these done yet. I did plug the sides on both of these. But now I'm waiting for sealer, which is the next batch is a couple of days. Couple of days away. But that's fine, because this stuff takes a strong day. I guess some of that GM stuff. This isn't that GM stuff, but that GM stuff that I used up top. That's like paintable in a few hours. This is a polymer. Shit, I threw it all out too. And I didn't want to use it, so it's a heavier body. I mean, it's not like that GM stuff isn't heavy, but it tools a lot better than that stuff. But I'm saving all that GM stuff for the flats. And then I got a trowel on. I did all the radiuses, I guess, the 90s. Other than, again, this is a flat, that kind of stuff. So I went up to it, and then I'll trowel all that other stuff on. And then I sandblasted those, and I hit them with a primer here earlier today. I don't have the valve covers on here. And I shot these in a copper. And I still, jury's out on what I want to do with the engine, whether I want to contrast it or not. Now, it was originally, and maybe even I mentioned Hemi Orange, but that's 426. That's 426, and I was dreaming of it, and orange would look just cool with this color, in my opinion. But I don't want people to mistake it for a 426. And most people won't. I guess it is 2023. It's been many years. But I'm still toying with what color I want to make the engine block. But I do want the valve covers to be this color. I've seen a couple of pictures online, and I really like this against silver, this against black. Probably any color, but I'm not going to paint the block. I'm not going to do it monochromatic. I'm going to contrast, so... Anyway, the pan is in pretty good shape. It had a couple of little minors. I don't want to get too close. There's a couple of dings there. Stuff like that. There's a little, you can see a little boop right there. Probably from trying to straighten it. Not me though. But, being this was likely a generator or a water pump. It just sat in a box. That's why this stuff is in such good shape. So I just hit it with a spray bomb and then primer surfacer and 3 coats of that. Let it set, the recommended period. I don't know. Well, I'll let it set longer, probably 6 hours. When did I squirt it this morning? Anyway. And then, no, I came home and shot it at lunch. I had 1 coat on it, and then I put 2 more coats on at lunch. That's what I did. Then I came back and hit it with 600 grit wet sandpaper. And I'll let this cure out. Probably tomorrow morning I'll hit it with clear coat. Hello again. Okay. You see we've got a bunch of the epoxy on, but now negative battery post, positive battery post. This will come out and around and it'll attach somewhere to the 2-inch shock bar. The cross member that is the top of the coilover mount. And this is 3/4 of an inch, this tubing. This is 2 inches, or pardon me, the depth of this is 3 inches, so this is 2 1/4 inches remaining. That shock bar sits about flush with this. It gives me a little bit of space. Well, you can see the pad. It's about 1/4 of an inch below the bar. So get a little space up in there. So again, the negative will come out and it'll fasten to the shock bar as the ground, which is integral with the frame. This is the positive. He will come out. He will ride next to here. He'll come up here, shoot into that hole, and up that tunnel. Okay. The cap for the tunnel is the project for this morning. So on that back section where the positive battery cable goes in, this will just mount up. Whoops, this will mount up to the frame. Maybe I can get a little bit of a visual. So this will fasten right there. Okay, and then for the rest of the tunnel, if you recall, a portion of that tunnel is the drive shaft, and then the tail of the transmission. It ends at about, the tunnel ends at about where the cross member is, and then it starts to widen out. So that center section will be comprised of 2 pieces. I just put a little step in this one, just on the bead roller, and he'll mount up and cover the center, this being this portion over the drive shaft, this being the portion over the front or the transmission. So this will fasten probably, this will fasten probably with a couple of screws, and then there will be, I don't know, about 3 screws in there, and then I'll do a foam gasket on that, similar to what I did earlier on the battery box. So there you have it. Excuse me. Hello again. So I just finished, for the most part, I'd call it 1 3/4 coats, because I brushed out all of the corners and did a significant amount of build. At this point, I put about 1/3 of a gallon on it. I had about 1/2 of a gallon that I put on it. And you can see some smooth, where it's shiny, there's those smoother spots, not as textured. Those are all single coat, the first coat, and it lays down. There's a little bit of, you can see some haze and voids. Where I rolled down the first coat in the areas where you got 2 coats, you can see the build. That was some flowering that happened in the first one. Same right there. Same right there. So it's building at this point, and now I'm using a textured roller instead of a flat roller, to try to get the coverage. So I should, of course, the second coat always goes down thicker and faster, but all my corners should be done. Maybe a few touch-ups hither and dither, but for the most part, all the build on all of this looks really good. So now I'm going to get the build, use that last 2/3 of a gallon to get in and finish. So it will have better than a gallon worth of material on it. Of course, most of it evaporates, but the weight of a gallon, shoot, I don't even know. What is it? Doesn't tell me the weight. I never did weigh it. This is about 2/3 of a gallon. So it's in the neighborhood of about 3-4 pounds. Most of the solids will evaporate, so it'll be a couple of pounds worth of material. Yeah, probably 2 to 3 pounds worth of material on it in the end. But it adds a spectacular build, just a phenomenal build, and that's what I'm looking for sound deadening and get the tones down. So anyway, good heat resistance, fair UV resistance, but they stand up. I did a similar, I think I've mentioned before, I've done quite a few of these, but this is all dirty, but I did this box in the same manner on my 37. So thanks for watching. Well, I guess one quick point is I did get the last coat on. Came home for lunch. Excuse me, and spritzed down. I'm enjoying my after work drink. Okay. Spritzed her all down. Now she's got a wonderful texture, and that is the key to this whole thing. For the most part, pretty well buried the seams, but I wanted to have that much build, right? I wanted to have it built out, have it sealed, and then have it tough. I'm not going to tap it because I did touch a spot, and it still needs to cure. It's been only about 4 hours. So I decided to start taking this pan back down and get it ready for respray, because I had gotten onto it too early with the clear, and it reacted. But now I decided I'm just going to try my hand at cleaning some of this up, blending these in, getting rid of the wrinkles on this pan. So try to get some of the shape back into it. Clearly it was set on something, you know, and it's got 53 to 23, right? 60, 70 years of life into it already. So I just basically wire brushed the paint off. I still have to get in there with a wire wheel and get that out of there, and then I'm gonna start tapping on this. Give you the results a little bit later. These I did strip down, metal prepped them, and hit them with this primer filler again. Now, that's not, I mean, it says automotive, but it's single part. But for the most part, when I'm spraying an engine, you know, I'm not going to use automotive paint. But I did take the opportunity to just continue to block on these until I got them straight. So I blocked them down, scratched them out with 180, and then hit them with 320 before I shot it with primer. So those I'm pretty confident with. I'm going to let this primer sit for days before I get on it, though, this time. More later.